So we've got Caitlin Strempel, Linus Chung, Clarke Tucker, Grace Gong, and Andy Krainak. Okay.
Hi, friends. Thank you so much for coming to our panel today. I'm just waiting for the clap,
Yes.
okay? Guys. So today we have some amazing NFT experts on this stage with me, and I will let them introduce themselves. What about start with Linus?
Sure. Hi, I'm Linus Chung. I'm a VP of Product at Origin Protocol. We aim to be a simple and trusted platform for creators to launch, grow, and manage their NFT communities. We do that through easy mint in minutes service. We allow creators to launch their own marketplaces, token-gated access, custom ERC20s, basically your entire life cycle for building and managing and growing your NFT community.
Hi there, I'm Clarke Tucker. I work for Reality Plus. I'm the client account manager here. We take franchises from all different walks of life into a Web3 space. So we've taken multiple franchises such as Doctor Who and very recently Thunderbirds into the NFT space.
Hi everyone, I'm Andy Krainak. I spent the last 9 years working under Gary Vaynerchuk at his advertising agency VaynerMedia, and now I am the president of his NFT company VFriends.
I'm Grace Gong. I'm the host of Smart Venture Podcast, and some of my past guests, including some really cool people in the NFT space, such as the founder of OpenSea, founder of FTX, Karen Rose, among others. And I'm so grateful to be here with some amazing experts in the industry.
Hi, everybody. My name is Caitlin Strempel. I am the owner of an NFT marketing agency. I am the host of the Women and NFTs in Web3 podcast, and most recently launched the Calibration Room, which is a networking group for the women of Web3. My focus is very much on building intentional brands and creating hype from the inside out.
Amazing. So, to start off our panel, so I would love to learn more about what you guys think are the newest trends in the NFT space.
I can start. I think if you look at top line numbers, it's easy to conclude that, hey, the NFT market has crashed, right? With macro uncertainty in the broader economy, crypto prices, you're definitely seeing volumes go down. But what is really interesting, though, is we hit a peak in terms of volume plus active wallets earlier this year in 2022. But you're actually still seeing, while volumes are coming down overall, you're still seeing the number of active wallets at higher levels than at any point in 2021. So what that suggests to me is, one, degens are going to degen, right? The people that are continuing to be active, love NFTs, are collecting, are trading, they're still here. Casual collectors and investors, they're taking a break for now. So what you're also seeing there is average volume, average transaction size is actually coming down. So what that suggests to me is people are looking for deals. People are going into more niche communities. A new trend has popped up that is being branded degen mints. You probably heard of Goblin Towns as a free mint. Rex Guy is another one, another favorite of mine. But what that suggests to me is less that it's more degen, so to speak. It's just they're speaking to a more niche audience. Those are the people that are still active right now. It's almost making fun of themselves, making fun of the industry, like, I got wrecked, I'm in Goblin Town. So it was incredible marketing and community building for a particular niche audience. And I think that that's going to be a unique trend where there's not going to be sort of the mass market, hey, NFTs for everyone, the easy money for creators and collectors. Creators are going to have to be more creative about who are you actually targeting and build a community around them. It might be a smaller audience, but it might be a very active and rewarding community that you can build.
Very cool.
No, I totally agree with what he said. I think current market dynamics are going to create a much healthier ecosystem where communities are really going to need to be built for the right reasons, and it will be more narrow and niche based on your personal interests and why you might want to be a part of that NFT project.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of smaller launches, so some projects coming out thinking that they're going to launch really big, and now deciding, okay, we're not going to launch really big. A lot of 10K launches aren't really selling out anymore at the rate that they were before. So we're seeing a lot of taking it down and into really small launches, but getting that hype of selling out quickly and building that community so when they are ready to launch that big launch, they already have that community in place, and then they're going to be able to have those hypers or that help once they do come to launch.
I've seen, so my past experience before starting my podcast, I worked in venture capital. I've seen a lot of venture capital are still really a lot of institutional money goes into the NFT space, and I see a lot of VC are still very actively looking for ways to investing in the space. So for example, like early on, like there was $10 million goes to the Proof Collective, and $450 million goes to the Bored Ape Yacht Club. And there recently I've seen, people, like I've seen like two really cool like VC and founders started a new $30 million fund backed by folks from like A16Z, as well as a lot of really top VCs to actually still investing in the NFTs themselves. And then I've seen I've chatted with people in the industry. People are saying they're putting in half of the money into the top blue chip project, and then half the money are still looking for new, really like hyper growth projects.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, I know you work a lot in Web 2. What have you seen be successful when launching Web 2 businesses in a Web 3 space?
Totally. I think like Web 2 company, I've definitely seen a lot of amazing launches in the space. For example, I spoke with the VP of AB InBev, and they did a really, well, actually they chatted with Gary last year on the stage of NFT.NYC, and so he mentioned like a lot of amazing launch, and for example, they bought like Beer.eth back in time, and then they launched Budverse, and I think that was such a great like example of like how brands can adopt NFT into their business model. I've seen a lot of really like interesting launches. For example, certain like fashion company, they would launch a piece of clothing in their metaverse. However, I feel like one of the most important thing is focusing on who's in your community. Your NFT audience may not be the same as your Web 2 audience. People who may bought like a sneaker or something, they may not be the exact same people who will buy a sneaker NFT. And I would go really focus on the essence of your company instead of focusing on what it looks like. You don't have to have the exact same like shoes in real life versus like the picture on your NFT. I think focusing on the essence, focusing on what people want out of this experience is extremely important.
Yeah, just following up on that, working with such brands such as Doctor Who, having such a huge legacy and 30 years of a franchise, and something else like Thunderbirds, you've got to look at these Web.2 brands and these franchises and really think about who you are targeting in the community, right? And I totally agree with you when you're talking about the assets and the art and what you're actually creating at the end of the day. It doesn't have to be replicated, but you have to really appreciate the audience you're talking to and educate at the end of the day. I think we can all appreciate there's an educational piece for what we're doing here today, and I think with what we are really lucky in this space is such fantastic energy, and we can use that really to have all successes all around us.
I think it's often a cliche, but I think it's true when I talk to traditional businesses or Web 2 businesses that are trying to get into Web 3 or NFTs, is to be authentic. And what I mean by that is if you are trying to tap into the Web 3 community, trying to bring on active NFT collectors, they can see right through an easy cash grab. They can see right through if you haven't really thought through this. It's becoming easier for folks to kind of share that, hey, don't mint this, there's really no value. Some successful examples of this, I think, are Gucci Grail. They partnered with 10KTF, which is actually a Beeple-owned project that had already built out a very, very active NFT community. And what they had done was not actually exclusive access to what you would think was like physical merchandise or physical pieces of clothing or jewelry from Gucci. In fact, it was deck out your Bored Ape in Gucci gear. And to that audience, that was probably more important and more valuable and more meaningful to them to personalize their Bored Ape that became part of their identity than something else for Gucci's mainstream audience. And that ended up being a very, very popular project, and they followed through with additional utility, exclusive access, and things like that. So I think that that is a very successful example of a traditional, long-standing brand that has successfully launched a project, and I'm bullish on the things that they come up with next.
I would say whether you're classified as a Web 2 company or a Web 3 company, your success is going to be built upon how well you're able to use the dynamics of the other Web 3 or Web 2. Meaning, if you're Web 3, you need Web 2 in every component to actually be able to effectively communicate and market what you're doing, and vice versa. If you're interested in Web 3 but you're a Web 2 company, there's a lot of opportunities to do that. On VFriends, we talk a lot about the mechanics that we're doing with communicating to our holders, or how we launched and minted VFriends Series 2 was really like Web 2.5. It's just a hybrid model, and I think until Web 3 continues to grow and develop, we're going to have to live in this 2.5 space.
For sure. What do you guys think are some really important things to focus on after people minting the NFT?
Communication. I think that's when the work starts. Everyone, obviously, you need to be able to market and talk about what your roadmap is, or what your vision is, or how you're building your community. But honestly, day one is after launch. That's how I think about it. And I think whether that's building out a Discord or whatever your mechanism to really communicate to your holders, I think everything for a successful NFT project is going to be how effective you are communicating to the people that own your tokens.
Yeah, I love that. And on top of that, I would say consistency. So when you're launching, you are showing up everywhere. If you stop showing up in the way that you were before and during launch, people are going to start getting really scared. And they're going to start, freaking out. So make sure that if you don't show up consistently, communicate, tell them what you are doing, and explain to them why they aren't.
It's a lot of work. I mean, managing a Discord is a lot of work. The second that someone has emotions about what you're doing, you need to address it head on. And you do that through communication, and also being confident in whatever you're trying to derive for your community or your NFTs.
Yeah, and during launch, you're doing a lot of talking. So at this point in time, when you launch, start listening. And start asking your community what they want and what they want to do next, and let them come along with the ride on the ride with you.
I totally agree. I think I learned about the listening from chatting with the former co-CEO of Chipotle. He had conversation with 20K employees in Chipotle. I feel like that's a great example in listening. I think this should be applied into the NFT community. After you launch, being really close to your fans and then turn them into super fans, become ambassadors for your future projects is extremely important. This also reminds me of when I was having conversation with the CEO of Notion, she mentioned that when Notion was growing at the beginning, they hired someone from their community to run the community, and the CEO and COO would go to when they go to different city, they would meet up with the passionate users, and then I feel like doing things don't scale definitely really helps you to get the engagement going.
Most of the answers for the strategy of what you should be doing for your community or project can be found by listening to your community and just actualizing on it.
Everyone's spoken very much about it's communication, right? Education. The word's been thrown around so much, but it is so key, right? These people are so powerful and are helping everyone on this journey. So we've only got to help them back.
It's a joke. I said it yesterday, but I actually think my boss Gary has read more comments on social media than any human on the planet. He's a cultural anthropologist. He's listening and reading at all times. Thus, he's able to synthesize what he thinks his strategy should be for all of his companies, and specifically, of course, VFriends.
I agree with all these points. Communication is key. One thing that may be non-obvious to folks that I think I would impart is just building that trust, and that comes through security, right? One thing that's just unfortunate for our industry right now is there's a lot of scams There's a lot of hacks. It's easy to point to platforms like, oh, Discord's not secure, it's Discord's fault. Or there's a lot of scams on OpenSea, but ultimately your collectors are looking to you. If there's a free surprise mint that's sort of like announced in your Discord and your community loses money, it may not be your fault, but ultimately you'll lose trust in the community. And that's ultimately what the communication aspect, I think everybody is saying communication is important because it's ultimately about building trust. And when trust breaks down, like somebody on your team gets socially engineered, it really is everybody's responsibility in the industry, both builders of these platforms to make it more secure, but also stewards of these platforms, community mods, owners, and things like that, to make sure that their things are secure, that you've properly kind of like managed everything such that you can prevent these kinds of scams from happening and taking over people's wallets or having people lose their funds. In other cases, I've seen projects do the hard thing of reimbursing customers for lost funds and really building up that trust. It can be expensive, but ultimately it's a cost of doing business in Web3 right now. So investing in education and trust and security for your users, I think, is going to be key.
What is a 30-second roadmap for like launching a successful NFT? This is on the spot. Like none of us are prepared for this question. I just have it because we have a tiny clock right there. So
30-second roadmap for launching successful. Give yourself time. I've learned that twice. Both VFriends Series 1 and Series 2 were delayed launches. That's by virtue of sort of the complexity, but also delaying it because we wanted to do it right. Giving yourself enough time, testing in every way possible. I've learned in multiple ways that the Robinson test network behaves very differently than when you're live on Ethereum. Give yourself time, test, and build your community way before you're actually launching. Everyone's like, okay, they want to talk about the technical setups of how they want to do the token contract, all that stuff. I think of that as way more black and white, easy. The magic is actually how you're going to build a community.
I think as well, everyone's kind of quite using the nice idea of metaphors, right? I think there's definitely that turn of the switch, right? It's not going to be a full-blown turn of the switch. We have to massage it and make sure everyone's slowly introduced to it. And you got to hold their hand on the journey, right? You've spoken earlier about trust, and I think that's incredibly important because those are the people we've got to give trust to. So going back to the 30-second roadmap, yeah, it's got to be a very clear journey with plenty of time. Totally agree.
Yeah, I think my elevator pitch would really be focus on what makes you unique. And what I mean by that is, Andy just spoke about people focusing on the mint and the tech there. That's super important, don't get me wrong. But I think that NFTs are in the space where the early 1990s when e-commerce came out, and basically you had to spend multiple millions of dollars to get an e-commerce website up. Everybody was building out ways to like accept payments. It was like you're building everything soup to nuts. And I think that you should leverage the Web3 community. You should leverage what's available in the space. The mint, for example, should not be something that you necessarily focus on and try to differentiate or, don't reinvent the wheel there. Instead, build your community, build your brand, focus on what makes you unique. And there's pieces in the community that you can leverage so that you're not falling victim to getting scammed by bots or a faulty contract because you were focused on that piece of it.
I think you learn a lot about a project when shit hits the fan, when something goes wrong. Is actually when you see like who are the operators, how they're going to behave, and the real business dynamics of an NFT project is a business, and how are you going to actually sustain and build that business, not just 3 months time, but hopefully in the foreseeable future. So having a discussion with your team about what are the 15 things that could go wrong and coming up with a plan of communications and strategy when things don't go right, I think would be a wise idea too.
I think building a 360 experience as a brand is really important. Like your NFT should reflect your brand's core value instead of just launching a JPEG. Like I don't think most people are there just for the art. I think like people trying to find belonging in an NFT community, people are there to find like-minded people. And instead of focusing on what it should look like or what like, you know, what the online experience will be, maybe focusing on throughout, like, you know, every touch point of your daily life. Like when you wake up, what is the first app that you look at? Or like when you're scrolling on TikTok, or like, is the NFT like related to your watch or something? So like basically in every, creating like a cohesive experience throughout the day, or like throughout a person's like life is extremely important for brands to launch an NFT.
Yeah, and I will just end with, while you're nurturing your community, also build your connections outside of your community, because once it is go time, then that's going to be your support system. That's going to be your access to outside your community, to more community members. And when everybody is going right, ask yourself how you can go left and what you can do differently. And that's time.
Fully agree with that.
Much. Thank you so much, guys. So interesting. All these panels are awesome, honestly.